The 2018 Chemung County Executive Debate, broadcast live from the Frankly Speaking studio on News Talk 1230 and 1450 AM and 106.9 FM, and televised on WYDC TV Big Fox. We go now to your moderator, Frank Acom.
I'd like to welcome Republican candidate Sheriff Chris Moss, Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel, and Independence candidate Mike Cruzen. Gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to participate in today's debate. In the interest of getting in as many questions as possible, let's get started with opening statements. You'll each have 1 minute, and we begin with Mike Cruzen.
Good morning, Frank and Rachel. It's been an honor to serve the Chemung County community for the last 30 years. The most recent 17 years as the Deputy County Executive. What I know is this: it has always been about change. Whether it's been the county taking on New York State over a cap on Medicaid costs, saving taxpayers millions of dollars, leading the way in shared services with our municipal partners, creative problem solving that has allowed us to hold the line on county property taxes for the last 13 years, or a county government wise enough to change the way we approach economic development that has led to over 1,000 new jobs, $150 million in new investment, and sales tax collections up 7% year to date. Our residents have always been able to count on county government to be the responsible party in the room. But I also know this: it is my experience of the last 30 years that has allowed us to deliver quality results that improve the lives of our residents every single day. So those who call for change, I offer this. I have been here answering that call with an unwavering commitment to our community each day of that 30 years.
Thank you. Now we go to Republican candidate Sheriff Chris Moss.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for hosting the debate. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sheriff Chris Moss. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 29 years, and I've been your county sheriff for the last 13 years. The biggest question I answer as I'm going door-to-door campaigning for the Office of County Executive is, why are you interested in running for county executive? Well, you know what? It's time for more open and transparent county government. It's time for a county government where the legislature plays their role and they're more receptive and they answer to their constituents and let the village mayors and managers and so forth know what's going on in their respective districts. I think we can do a better job. I don't think a bad job's been done, but you know what? I think we can improve the way that we bring services to county residents, and I think we can do a lot of things better, from term limits to sales tax redistribution, which has really been driving this election from January right up till current. We're going to do things better. We can do things better. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go to Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel.
Well, my name is Jerome Emanuel. I'm a fourth-generation Elmiran, born and raised in Elmira. I currently live in the town of Elmira right now. My background includes some time spent at the Department of Social Services. I worked in Children and Family Services Division and Child Protective Services, as well as Medicaid. I spent over 20 years in the automobile industry, 16 of those years as a general sales manager or a general manager of franchise dealerships. And I spent a lot of time working in the community, working at the ground level with such organizations as United Way, volunteered with the EOP, and other great organizations. And I'm running because, you know, it's time. I mean, I think that, you know, there are problems in our community and that, you know, deserve a fresh set of eyes and a fresh look. And I think that I can provide that.
Thank you. Now we move to questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer with a 30-second rebuttal only if necessary. Our first question goes to Sheriff Chris Moss. I got their mic on. Given the approval of the new medical school in Elmira, what ideas do you have to entice the future doctors to stay in our area?
Oh, well, first of all, I mean, we have to have things for doctors to do. I use Corning Incorporated for a perfect example. They have a hard time retaining great talent because there's not a lot of things to do in this area. I think the medical school is going to be great for the area. It should bring infusion of new business, hopefully, cash infusion to the city of Elmira. Obviously, we're going to have students here, so I think one of the main factors we need to look at is public safety. Our students are going to want to come here to the city of Elmira with the amount of shootings and violence that we've had, and that comes back to public safety, and that comes back to who wants to buy houses here, who wants to send their kids to school here. So, I mean, I think we have to make public safety a bigger focus of our economic development, specifically referring to the medical school, but it's going to be great. I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of doctors who are going to be involved in it, so I'm looking forward to it, but it could be big things for the city of Elmira, so I congratulate all of those who have had any involvement in bringing it to the city.
Great. Now we go to Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel.
Well, I also think that it's great, to have the school come into the city of Elmira, but just like anything else, and specifically with Elmira College, it's intermingling within the city of Elmira has always been very challenging. Getting people, from that campus to, interact with the citizens that live there has always been challenging. So yes, public safety is definitely going to be something that's going to be a concern. And I, also agree that, people need something to do. Just being confined to one area. I mean, there needs to be events and things happening all the time. Right now we don't see that. We don't see a lot of excitement within the community, and I think that we need to do whatever we can to build that up and to make them actually part of our community. So, plus with the amount of money that's coming in, bringing these people in, we welcome them, and we just hope that we can keep them here.
Thank you. Now to Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Actually, I do see a lot of excitement in our community. I mentioned that 1,000 new jobs, that $150 million of economic investment that we can expect over the next 12 months. But for downtown Elmira, what was more important is that we actually put a team of people together to build a plan to revitalize downtown Elmira and competed and won $10 million. And people are starting to see the fruits of that labor right now. We have a wonderful new project that's going on West Water Street, 51 new market rate apartments, 16,000 square feet of commercial space. We're building out 250 to 350 downtown apartments. We've got the arena back up and running. You got a fabulous Clemens Center. You got a tremendous banking sector, government sector. A lot of activity going on in downtown Elmira, and the big piece of that puzzle also is LECOM. We worked very, very hard with Dr. Terry from LECOM to be successful. It took a long time, about 4 years of grinding through that accreditation process to be successful. So they're about to build a $20 million campus next to St. Patrick's Church, just right on the edge of downtown Elmira, a block away from Elmira College. And I think what you're going to see is revitalization of those entire neighborhoods around that area as well. We're also working with a land bank to do just that, rehab those neighborhoods, because what I've stressed very much is that you can't have a revitalized downtown if you don't have rehabilitation of those neighborhoods that abut downtown that have high poverty rates, 40, 50, 60%. So that medical school will be very transformational for that particular neighborhood, but also will be that value added to that downtown Elmira effort that we're going to go through. 480 medical students is going to be very transformational. They're going to fill some of those apartments that we're going to build out. So it's an exciting time in downtown Elmira. You've got the row houses on West Water Street, the new Finger Lakes house that people are going to. There's going to be a new pub in that new building that we're building. So a lot of good news coming our way, and we're really, really very excited about the prospects for downtown Elmira.
For our next question, we go to Big Fox reporter Rachel Madej.
So for this question, we're going to start with Democratic candidate Jerome Emanuel. The Chemung County Executive and Legislature recently voted themselves a pay increase. Do you think the salaries are appropriate, keeping in mind that parts of the county are struggling financially?
No, I don't think it's appropriate at all. I mean, we do have one of the worst economies in the state. I mean, that's not even arguable. And I've been proposing from the beginning, a third cut in the salary of the county executive pay. And it's not to say that, because it's, we have a $50,000 problem. It's not that. It's a gesture to the people that live within Chemung County. So I feel that a third pay cut is in line with where we are economically, and it's hard to justify, paying, $160,000 plus for people that are struggling every day. We have one of the highest poverty rates in the state. How can I justify, being one of the highest county executives, in the state as well? I just don't think that's very appropriate for our area. So.
Same question to Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I would say this about the county exec's position. It's not a position that goes to the lowest bidder. It's a position that should go to the person with the most experience. It is a complicated budget, $240 million, 1,000 employees, over 30 departments. It requires somebody that can interact with the business community, with other local governments, with the state government. I mean, we've been very lucky to bring an awful lot of resources to our community recently as a result of the airport, the downtown revitalization, and millions of dollars of grants that are going to local businesses to create jobs and expand our economy. So I would say this, that certainly, Tom Santulli has been there 17 years. The salary's about $165,000. Certainly we can take a look at that. I've made a proposal to lower it to $150,000, which will include wages as well as the retirement benefits associated with that position. So that's about a $45,000 savings, and I think that's an appropriate time to do that. But again, I would caution people, you have to pay for experience. You have to have good quality people working for you. And there's an internal and external comparability that's important when you look at how we hire those people. So we've got professional engineers. We've got people with master's degrees. We've got people that have law degrees. These are all people that work for the county on behalf of the citizens. It's how we've been able to hold the line on property taxes for the last 13 years is by hiring good quality people and paying them, market rate dollars. Certainly, are there parts of Chemung County struggling? Certainly. We just talked about poverty, and everybody should be aware that that's important. But let me tell you how we're going to handle the things that you're talking about in terms of both the opportunities that we have, but also the challenges, is by hiring good quality people, electing good quality people to the office. So certainly we can take a look at that. We'll lower it. Again, that's a $45,000 savings, but I by no means am embarrassed to tell you that we pay our department heads appropriately and competitively, and that's how we keep good quality people working in Chemung County.
Same question to Republican candidate Chris Moss.
The salaries in Chemung County are out of hand. In 2016 and 17 combined, the deputy executive and county executive made over $1 million. They're collecting their retirement. Our deputy executive has that title, as well as a STEG president that was given to him by the county executive's office. Our county executive makes more than the county executive in Westchester County, Onondaga County, Monroe County. These are counties with a population over 1 million people. Yes, you have to pay a decent wage to get qualified individuals, but the problem is we live in Chemung County, population of less than 88,000, yet we're paying our employees, especially our top single rate employees, way too much money. And where it's filtered in at, which is interesting, we entered into these shared services agreements. Now, for instance, in the town of Big Flats, the town of Elmira, if the treasurer's office is responsible for assisting with those finances, well, we have to give some more money to the treasurer because, you know what, let's give him an $8,000 bump in salary. But you don't see that until 2 months after the shared services agreement news release comes out. So we can do better. We will do better. My proposal is a 15% cut right off the top for the deputy executive and county executive, and then we're going to do a review of the single rate employees in the six-figure area and see if they're being paid what they should be paid. And can we do better? Because I know we can. And we have a rebuttal from Mike.
Yeah, if I could just quickly, Frank, the county executive did not appoint me to the STEG position. The business leaders, there's over 100 businesses that represent STEG. They have an executive committee of about 10 local business leaders, from Elmira Savings Bank to Chemung Canal to all of the major companies in town, Hilliard's. They asked me if I was interested in taking a look at that job. And quite frankly, I took a look at that job, accepted it, and we've gotten nothing but good results. So, I do collect my New York State pension. I will continue to do so. But that $150,000, again, will save taxpayers $45,000 per year.
Thank you. Oh, we have another rebuttal from Chris Moss.
Yep, that is inaccurate. I was on the 5th floor of the Hazett building when the county executive met with the legislative chair, Donna Draxler, and talked about getting rid of George Minor and giving Mike Cruzen the job, and obviously he was going to collect that salary and then file for his retirement. So let's be honest about how the job was given to Mike Cruzen. The business leaders may have approved it, yes, but they were given the name and Mike Cruzen as their candidate.
Business leaders do not report to the county executive. They are well-established people in our community. I don't think they march to the drummer of the county executive. So listen, I'm proud of the fact that they selected me, and I'm proud of the work that we've accomplished. That's how we've created 1,000 jobs. That's why we have $150 million worth of economic investment going on, by looking and consolidating our efforts to make sure that those things happen appropriately in our community.
One last rebuttal, and then we'll move on.
You continue to talk about these 1,000 jobs, but yesterday the New York State Department of Labor released their numbers for the last 12 months. Chemung County and Binghamton are still the only two in the negative bracket, as New York State boasts the lowest unemployment rate in over 30 years. So where these jobs are, I don't know, but we probably ought to contact the New York State Department of Labor and find out.
Sure. Actually, last month we created 300 jobs.
We're going to move on here to the next question. Too many rebuttals here, but we'll start with Independence candidate, Mike Cruzen. What is your opinion of the proposed sales tax allocation plan?
Well, that's a complicated one to talk about in 2 minutes for sure, but you can't start any conversation about sales tax reallocation without acknowledging the fact that Chemung County as a local government spends 100% of its tax levy and 20% of its sales tax on unfunded mandates. So when it comes to sales tax allocation, we can share with municipalities, and we do. Some counties do not, but we do. I think what you have to look at, are we sharing it fairly? We'll be sharing about 28% of our total sales tax collections with our towns and villages, which will be about $17 million of their $30 million worth of expenses. Our surrounding counties, on average, share about 28% as well. The other thing that's very important to know about this is at the time we made this decision, the county was faced with a choice of either a 20% property tax increase or taking a look at the allocation of sales tax. Our municipalities had substantial fund balances, about 85%, which is about almost 3 times higher than the guidance from the comptroller's office. So when we looked at that, we felt that that revenue sharing was out of balance, and we went ahead and made those changes. Now, what's happened in that period of time is more than half of those jurisdictions have still lowered their property taxes, and overall we still have about a 55% fund balance. So they're still doing very well. Now, the other important point is this, is 95% of the taxpayers in Chemung County will pay less taxes in 2019 than they would have if we had done the 20% property tax increase. So that's an important thing to note. So, tough stuff sometimes to have these conversations, but I will tell you, most of our municipalities have reached out to us and they have joined us in shared services, tried to be more efficient, more effective together. So, sharing resources is no different than sharing services. It's a collaboration, it's a partnership, and it's a responsibility of all of our local governments to work collaboratively together on behalf of our taxpayers.
Thank you. Sheriff Chris Moss.
Make no mistake about it. This was a money grab on behalf of the county. What they did is they had a financial restructuring plan that they planned out in 2013, was to take effect in 2014, and 2014 through current, they got a bigger piece of the pie. Local municipalities got a smaller piece of the pie. And when we announced in January that we were going to run for county executive and that we would like to see a new plan for sales tax redistribution, the county executive's office made it clear that is not going to happen. But you know what? As the campaign went through the spring and other candidates for legislators started talking about it, and we actually looked at the fund balances of the local municipalities, it was clear that they were being depleted. It is not the county executive's job to tell local municipalities that your fund balance is too low or too high. That's why we elect a New York State comptroller. That is their job. That was simply an excuse to go ahead and take the money. And in the meantime, when the county took this money, they said they were going to some insurance changes. They did do. They came up with a salary schedules to help save money. But the big thing is that they were going to have a hiring freeze. But from the time that they implemented the plan to current, 41 new full-time employees with benefits. And that doesn't include the employees that were taken over through shared services agreements. So, I mean, there is more to the story. It's very important to the municipalities. Take the town of Erin, this new plan that was approved by the legislature a week or two ago. The town of Erin is going to get $16,500 approximately out of the $500,000 apparently that's going to go to the municipalities. That's a drop in the bucket when you consider they were getting $84,000 by the previous plan. So we have to do a better job. I think we have to get more people involved, and we have to forecast down the road what's going to happen to these fund balances of the local municipalities. Southport is looking at a possible sales tax increase. Town of Elmira is looking at a possible sales tax increase, and they're on the comptroller's fiscally distressed list. So, I mean, I don't know how these things happen and why the county now all of a sudden wants to give money back when they initially were steadfast saying we're not going to share any more of the sales tax revenue.
Thank you. Now we go to Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel.
Well, I think with the sales tax redistribution, I mean the thing is why now? So we have, not even arguably, we have the most talented group of county legislators coming to the table right now, and not just Democrats, Republicans too. So we have some of the brightest people coming to the table right now, and we're not even allowing them to have an opportunity to say what's on their mind and how they feel about what their plan should be. I'm a collaborator. I'm not a dictator by nature. I want to listen to what people have to say. And right now, we don't have all the players at the table. So the rush to get this thing done now is definitely politically motivated. But after this November, when we have the right people at the table, let's, sit down and have that conversation and figure out together, work together on exactly, what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, work through some of those kinks. I mean, obviously, sales tax redistribution is been one of the hottest topics all year. Are municipalities struggling? Well, yeah, they think that they are. I look at that assessment and I agree with that assessment. So I know that there are things that need to change, but making decisions without all the people at the table is reckless, in my opinion, and we need to involve the people that are at the table.
Frank, could I rebut? All the people have been at the table. We have constant conversations with our towns and villages. Chris Moss mentioned 3 municipalities, Southport, Erin, and the town of Elmira. Keep in mind, all 3 of those municipalities over the period of the sales tax allocation have lowered their taxes, lowered their property taxes, and have fund balances in excess of 50%. He says that we don't decide what fund balances are, the Comptroller's office does. Well, the Comptroller's office did give guidance. Anything over 30% is excessive. Government bank accounts is not where taxpayer money should be stuffed. It should be in your pockets so you can spend it.
We now return to Big Fox reporter Rachel Madej.
This next question is first for Republican candidate Chris Moss. The question is, how important is it to continue to support the First Arena?
Well, you know what? It's very important. It's there. We just have to figure out what we're going to do with it and somehow get the private sector involved in it. Renting the First Arena out for $150 a month probably isn't going to be a long-term solution, I would hope. It's very interesting as to how that came about during the political season. I'm glad we got hockey there. I'll be there to watch the hockey. But the fact of the matter is the county executive and the deputy executive spoke very negatively about Robbie Nichols for a long period of time, including conversations they had with the legislature. But then when politics comes along and it's the county executive's race, now all of a sudden he's a great guy. Let's get a hockey in here and give him a team. But you know what? I think it's great that he's taking the reins and he's going to try and make a go of it. But again, we got to find out how we're going to pay for that. STEG can't continue to pay the bills. IDA can't continue to pay the bills. We can't ask the taxpayers to do it. I know there was a lot of outstanding debt. I'm not sure how that got taken care of because it really kind of fell off the legislative's checklist. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But I am in favor of the arena. We've got to make it work. We've got to make it part of the downtown revitalization. It's there. It's not that old of a building, but the longer it sits and it's not getting the maintenance that it needs, the more it's going to cost. So definitely we need to keep it. We need to find a plan that's going to work.
Same question for Democratic candidate Jerome Emanuel.
Well, I have an extensive background in the private sector, so I know what it takes to run a business, and and essentially the First Arena is a business, and it's a huge part of the heart of the city of Elmira. So we're essentially asking local government to be, to run a business. It's very complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, in there. And I can just tell you what I see. When I drive by there, I don't see a lot of things happening there. I don't see a lot of things going on. I am glad that a deal was done with hockey. I enjoyed, taking me and my family to go watch hockey. However, it's got to be more than hockey. I mean, there needs to be something happening there all the time. That is the epicenter of the city of Elmira, and that's what it was created for. In my personal opinion, we need somebody that has a business plan, that has an idea specifically exactly what they want to do with the arena, that has a 10-year plan out, that we can all sit across from each other at the table and say, you know what, I like this plan. Let's sell this arena to somebody who actually knows exactly what an arena is supposed to do and how it's supposed to work.
Same question for Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Thank you, Rachel. Let me be perfectly clear about this. We do not have a bad relationship with Robbie Nichols in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I just met with Robbie yesterday. Had a very good conversation. But, just a quick history on the arena. The city of Elmira built the arena, 20 years ago to promote economic development. For many years it had an awful lot of success, more, I would tell you, from the perspective of entertainment than financial. And I don't think I need to elaborate on the history of the different ownerships, but the reality is the arena has not been a profit center. In fact, the IDA had to step up to save the arena from closure, and it is my opinion that if it had closed, it would never have reopened. So what we've done since the day the IDA took possession of the arena was look for an ownership path to try to find a way to put that back into private hands in a way that it would be a productive asset to the city of Elmira. Robbie came to us the year before. We weren't able to do it because we had concerns about the ice plant. This last year, he came to us and said he had somebody he thought could fix the ice plant. He's done that. He's in there. The season's about to start. The first home game is the middle of November. He believes the first 2 games will be sold out. He's got wonderful plans. The circus was just there, and they're starting to build out the youth hockey program again. Our goal is also to have Elmira College play hockey there. They want that. We want that. So there is the start of a path forward. We're going to look at a state grant for $3 million to do some capital improvements, but it's a complicated business plan there in the sense that, you can't privatize profits and socialize losses, but it is a business that has not made money since the day it's opened. It's a community asset. We have to treat it that way. We have to come up with a plan to move forward. We think that partnership with Robbie right now is a strong one, and we think it'll continue to be a wonderful asset in downtown Elmira, and we look forward to that being a part of that puzzle of revitalizing downtown.
So the problem is how does somebody know exactly what's going on, with the arena? Like, especially, with Robbie Nichols. Like, I believe that he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. But there are other players involved. There are other people, that are involved that can do an exceptional job with running a business. And at the end of the day, it is a business. We can't shortcut that. I mean, if we're having problems with making money at the arena, then we need to do everything we humanly possibly can to find somebody that does have a plan, or a group that does have a plan. And it can't just be hockey. It can't just be hockey. I mean, I've seen community-oriented, community-owned arenas that do different things. They do things like on Sunday Night Football, and they'll have everybody come out and things of that nature. But there's got to be more going on than just hockey.
Thank you, Jerome. The next question goes to you. This is a consistent email that we received. What is your position on consolidating police departments?
I believe that, especially considering that, the recent article that just came out by the former chief, I like that idea. I do like the idea of consolidating police departments, and I do agree that it should be the people doing the job that are the ones making the decisions. I mean, and if we're talking about a $2 million savings, which has been proposed, and without loss of personnel, without loss of services, with still being able to be there and serve our community, yeah, I'd be all for it, and I'm definitely, have open ears to that. But as I said before, I'm a collaborator. I'm not a dictator. So that would be something that I would want to have a conversation with everybody in law enforcement, as well as with the county legislators, and let's see what they think about it. So just because I say that I like the idea and I think that it's a good idea, it doesn't mean that I won't involve others in that decision-making process.
Next, we go to Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Sure. Thank you, Frank. Police services and public safety is one of those public services, if you would, that are so critical to the lifeblood of a community. I mean, it's an issue that's been around for a while. We've had fits and starts. We've had studies. We've had conversations. We've met. It's a tough one. We have multiple police departments in multiple jurisdictions. The town of Elmira, the village of Elmira Heights, the village of Horseheads, they embed their police departments into their social fiber of that community, and those residents seem to be willing to pay those higher taxes that are associated with that service. The larger department, the city of Elmira, obviously the city itself is under great fiscal stress right now. Huge deficits and problematic in the sense of how do they fund public safety moving forward, not just police services, but fire services as well. So it's a community issue that we're going to have to wrap our arms around. I think what we ought to do is, quite frankly, bring in a impartial facilitator to sit with everybody, to work with the respective legislative bodies, as well as the police departments in particular, to see if there's a way to look at that as a consolidated service, just as we have others that work so well. IT, civil service, purchasing, public works, building and grounds. There's a lot of things we already do to share services together that save resources and still provide high quality services. But this is such a dynamic and important service in the community. It needs our full-time attention and our full full-time effort. Certainly, the sheriff will weigh heavily in that decision, and he has in the past. He's looked forward to, in his mind, as the chief law enforcement officer in the community, he wants to be the head of if there were a merged agency. Now, there's challenges from other people that they don't want that. They want a commissioner of police services. So listen, this is a temperamental conversation to have, but one we must have.
Sheriff Chris Moss.
Obviously, public safety is a big ticket item, and it needs to be addressed at some point. But the problem has been in the past, we've wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies in the last 15 years as to what we should do, and then we haven't followed any of them. One of the biggest problems is meetings have been held without the right people at the table. To hold a meeting on consolidated police services without the sheriff there, without the chief of police there, is wrong. We need the chief of police there, we need the sheriff there, and we need the unions there. Because you know what? The savings aren't going to be until years down the road. But the fact of the matter is, I worked with the county executive in the town of Elmira a couple years ago. I worked with the deputy executive in the village of Horseheads, where we thought we had brokered a deal. But at the end of the day, the taxpayers in those respective municipalities wanted their own police department, and they didn't care if they had to pay higher taxes to do that. So I don't think it's the county executive or the county sheriff's position to say, well, you know what, this is what we're going to do if the taxpayers are saying they're willing to pay for that service. And basically, that's what they've done. So, I mean, I think we have to get everybody together. What I'd like to see is maybe, first of all, we need a new home for the Elmira Police Department. They're working in two different buildings. We know the condition of City Hall and so forth, but maybe we could do shared evidence. We could do a combined records department to start off with and take baby steps because the collective bargaining agreements are very different. The salaries are different. The benefits are different. One is, I mean, deputy sheriffs have a different retirement plan than members of the Elmira Police Department. So there's a lot to sort out. It's been looked at before. But again, it's something that we need to keep on the table.
We have a 30-second rebuttal from Mike Cruzen.
Just quickly, I just want to certainly give full credit to Sheriff Moss for his years of service in the public safety field. I certainly think he would be an instrumental player at the table to talk with our different police agencies and our different police chiefs and our different legislative bodies to try to pull that conversation together. It's a very tough, very emotional conversation, but again, we have to have the conversation.
We now return to Big Fox reporter Rachel Madej.
So for this question, we're going to start with Independence candidate Mike Cruzen. Do you feel there is a need to repair the county's relationship with Elmira? If so, how can that be accomplished?
Certainly. We have had a long-standing, productive relationship with the city of Elmira. We have multiple shared service agreements. I mentioned some of them. Building and grounds, public works, IT, purchasing, civil service, 911. There's an awful lot that we've done over the years, but we've had some bumps in the road as well. We currently, I would suggest to you, are on a little frosty times, but I would also tell you part of that is born out of frustration more than it is dislike or the fact we don't want to move forward. We've made a number of proposals in combination with them that we thought would be very useful to the city. We were going to pursue a $20 million grant. Council chose not to. They were concerned about dissolution, which was really never on the table. We followed that up when we found out they were going to have to increase taxes by 17%. We met with the state of New York again, and we had a proposal that was going to allow them to take the 17% down to 7%. They were going to have to cut $400,000 out of their budget, and the county and the state were going to provide additional resources, and we never heard back from them. Then the current proposal is we are going to defer $1.3 million of payments that they owe to the county for a 2-year period, so they can freeze taxes for that 2-year period and put together a county-city work group so we can sit at the table and work our way through that. But let me also suggest this to you. Some of this is born out of just pure politics. We're in the middle of an election cycle. There's 2 council people that have contributed to my campaign. There's one that said he would endorse me. And there's a 4th that called me, shortly after the sheriff exercised his fuel card investigation to tell me that, quite frankly, they were uncomfortable about that. So we have support behind the scenes from city council, but, the mayor works for the sheriff. He works in the jail, and I think a lot of the problems we have right now are born from that relationship right there.
Same question to Republican candidate Chris Moss.
Very interesting. Well, take this into consideration. The county's relationship with the city of Elmira was poor when they were under Democratic leadership in Sue Skidmore. That relationship has gotten no better, and it's not bumps in the road. They're huge potholes. The relationship is just as bad with Dan Mandel, who, by the way, was the pick of Mike Cruzen and Tom Santulli to run for mayor. The relationship hasn't improved. The common denominator in that relationship is the county. It's that simple. Yes, I have Dan Mandel's a friend of mine. Yes, he works at the jail. I readily admit that. Yes, he's donated to my campaign. But to say that politics are the reason that the relationship is poor, that is wrong. Some of the tax redistribution plan, some of the other plans put forth by the county executive's office to the city during election time. What do you think the city's going to say? They're like, well, we're going to have a new county executive January 1st, regardless of which three of it is. So why wouldn't we wait and deal with the new county executive? So I don't think it's fair to blame it on politics alone. When you meet with the city and you have the attitude that, you know what, it's our ball, we're financially stable, we have the money, if you don't like our plan, then that's too bad. We can't have that. And I think we need to address this $20 million grant again. I've been told by two people that attended all of the meetings that, you know what, there was language in the contract that discussed dissolution of the city over a period of time. And Mr. Cruzen's comment was, well, you know what, none of us at this table are going to be here then anyway, so what do we care? So I think, you know what, well, you know what, that's what I'm being told. And we need to look at that, but we need to get past all that and stop arguing about that. Myself and Dave Sheen have fostered a positive relationship with the city manager and the mayor. We're ready to hit the ground moving January 1st, and I think we need some new players.
Same question to Democratic candidate Jerome Emanuel.
It's one thing that I completely don't understand. I mean, we're talking about a relationship between a city and a county, and a city that actually is within the county. I mean, we're talking about a relationship between people, you know, so we can't have frustration when we're talking about dealing with each other. We can't have politics. I mean, the people whose property taxes would just increase by 17%, so they don't care about your politics. You know, they care, you know, the people that are living, you know, where 85% of the poverty within Chemung County is within the city of Elmira. They don't care about your politics. You know, what they care about is they care about being broke. You know, we're talking about the arena and things like that. We have people that live within the city of Elmira that can't even afford a ticket in the arena. You know, we have to solve that problem. As far as relationships, you know, again, you know, I have experience to where, you know, I'm a master negotiator. I'm a collaborator. You know, I have had conversations with Mike Collins as a city manager. And as far as Dan Mandel goes, I mean, one thing that I can say about Dan Mandel is, you know, myself and my campaign, like, we have done things within the city as far as, you know, giving over 1,000 families book bags and school supplies and things of that nature. You know, going over to Catholic Charities on the other side of the bridge where they're doing something similar. You know who I see there? I see Dan Mandel. You know who I don't see there? Any other public elected officials. But I'm there. He's there. So our heart's in the right place, and I know that. So I know that we'll be able to have a working relationship, especially knowing that our heart's in the right place. I don't see that there will be a problem moving forward.
We have a rebuttal by Mike Cruzen.
Yeah, just quickly. Listen, none of us should argue with this fact. It is critical that Chemung County and the city of Elmira work collaboratively and work cooperatively together. We have to do that, we must do that, and we will do that, regardless of who the county executive is. So rest assured, City of Elmira residents, we will have an opportunity to do just that. Work collaboratively and make sure that you do not see another 17% tax increase.
Rebuttal, Chris Moss.
And I agree, we don't need the 17% tax increase. It'd be great to see him have a zero. But you continue to taunt how you have 30 years of experience, and you've been there for 30 years doing the job for 30 years. You've had 30 years to foster a positive relationship, and it just simply hasn't happened.
Well, I don't know how you suggest it hasn't happened when we have all those shared service agreements in place. We help with public works. We help with building and grounds. We're taking over $2.9 million worth of city expenses. We just offered them a 2-year package with a team of people to work with them. Listen, quite frankly, it could be headed by a facilitator. 2 years of no tax increases, $1.3 million deferred. And I think that's the answer to move forward, to help them figure out collectively with us, what do we need to do to make sure the city of Elmira doesn't continue to suffer the plight that it just did with regards to that large tax increase.
But we've forced the city of Elmira and several of these municipalities into these shared service agreements when you took the sales tax revenue.
That's nonsense.
That is not nonsense. That is true.
We forced somebody to sign an agreement that is working collaboratively for both parties.
Sign the agreement.
That
we'll
makes
cut the
no
services.
sense.
No, it makes perfect
no sense.
sense.
It does
makes
make no
perfect
sense. Listen, I hear from our towns and villages all the time. They tell us the shared services agreements are working fabulously. In fact, some of them aren't even involved with the county. It's multiple jurisdictions, villages, towns, doing the same thing that the sheriff's complaining about here. So listen, folks, this is all about working together to share our scarce resources in a way that we can continue to provide high-quality public services.
The sheriff isn't complaining about anything. The sheriff is pointing the facts out to the voters that, you know what, when the county made their sales tax grab, it hurt municipalities, and municipalities, you either join the shared service agreement or you cut services to your constituents. It's that simple, and obviously they're not going to cut the services, so they join the shared services agreements.
Which are working very well.
Some of them.
We move on to our next question. Kind of fits into the line of topic that we're in right now. What is your plan to assist economic growth for the county and your plan to help the city of Elmira with the deficit? This goes to Republican candidate Sheriff Chris Moss.
Well, first thing we'll do is hire someone who's qualified to run Southern Tier Economic Growth. It can't be a political appointment. It's got to be somebody who is proven, has experience, that has brought jobs to the area, knows how to deal with the private sector. My plan for the city of Elmira is we need to sit down on the sales tax redistribution and give them a hand. We can look at bridges. We can look at the golf course. There's a lot of things we can look at, but we have to allow them to get together and have a plan. We need to sit down with them. Is it going to open? Are we going to open the county savings account to the city of Elmira? No, but the city of Elmira wants to sit and they want to do better and they want to take up some of these ideas, but they don't want to be told. The communication barrier is a problem. It can't be one-way communication. It's got to be two-way, and I think we can do that. So at the end of the day, sales tax redistribution, the plan would be very important, whether it's a 2-year plan or a 4-year plan. But to try to tie the city into a plan right now, a couple of weeks before the election, I just don't think people are like, well, why can't we wait? I know there's some time conditions. I believe it expires on November 30th, but it just looks political when you try and force it that quick. And that's what I hear when I go door to door. So yeah, one of my main objectives, as well as several of the legislators that are running, is to, we need to have a good plan for the city of Elmira to help them out of their deficit.
Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel.
As far as economic growth, 4 words: local jobs, local labor. If we're not even thinking along in those terms, then, I don't know what we're doing. When we're having people from other states or extremely out of town coming in and doing work in our community, what's happened is they're taking that money back out of the community. And we're not talking recycled money. We're talking actual cash that's within our community. So I know with the IDA, we're allowing 70% local labor, but it's not enough. It's 70% local labor with 100% of local taxpayers' money. Like, that doesn't work. If we want to improve our economic status, we need to keep local labor local. We need to make sure that we have, the increase in skilled labor training. We need to make sure that people are ready and trained to take on these jobs. And while we keep local labor local, we're increasing the demand of a local workforce, which is keeping people to work. I want people in Chemung County working, so I think that we got to start there. And if we're not along those lines, then I think that we're in serious trouble.
Thank you. Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Sure. Thank you, Frank. Let me speak very quickly to the local labor policy. That was actually a collaborative effort between local businesses and the local labor, and that's how we came up with the 70%. We'll see how that runs for a few years, and if it needs to be adjusted, we can certainly do that. But let me speak to Chris's comment about STEG. Listen, there's 100 business leaders that serve on the STEG board. There's 10 or 12 on the executive committee that are the leading business leaders in this community. They're supporting me. They believe I'm doing a good job at STEG. So I don't need the sheriff to tell me I'm not doing a good job or that I'm some kind of political appointment. I have worked for 30 years in economic development, both in my role as the deputy county executive, as well as the last 3 years as the president of Southern Tier Economic Growth. We've not seen the type of economic activity in this community that we've seen over the last 2 years and the next 3 years and the last 2 decades. $150 million of investment going on in this community. There are 1,000 new jobs. Corning Incorporated, Wayfair, Semicon, Emhart, Synthase, CAF USA, all of these businesses are expanding. There's good things going on both along the I-86 Innovation Corridor as well as in that Refresh Elmira $10 million revitalization program we're running. So we do have the ship headed in the right direction. Now, with regards to the city of Elmira and shared services, and the sales tax consolidation. Again, we will meet at the table with them, and we will figure out how to right the financial ship for them, and we will come up with an answer to make sure that Elmira can be a vibrant community again. That $10 million downtown is a start, but we have to stabilize the city of Elmira financially in order for us to make sure that some of those economic plans that we're driving forward can continue. So I'm thrilled about the work we've done at STEG, and I'm thrilled about the work we do with our municipalities in terms of sharing resources and making sure we can move this community forward together.
Jerome has asked for a 30-second rebuttal.
Well, the only thing that I really have to say is, Mike, I don't think that you've done a bad job at STEG, but I can say that, you know, we have failed to create destinations, and that's one thing that Chemung County desperately needs. We need destinations. I mean, when people want to go to Ithaca, there's something for them to go to Ithaca for. They want to go to Corning, there's something for them to go to Corning for. They want to go to Watkins Glen, there's something for them to go to Watkins Glen for. You know, we need to bring in people from other areas into our area to spend money within our community. So those destinations need to be created, you know,
And Jerome, I agree 100%, and it's early in the stages, but we're working on a $40 million project right now with the Arnett Mall, putting a new hotel there, a destination anchor, as well as a $8 to $10 million build out for an entertainment center there as well. You know, that new airport that we have, quite frankly, that's going to be a wonderful gateway to the southern tier, which obviously now has been named the #1 tourist destination for our wineries. Our downtown, if we can make that more vibrant, that will become a destination for sure. So I don't disagree with you at all. I think what you failed to see is all the work that's going on right now to make that happen.
We have a 30-second rebuttal from Sheriff Chris Moss.
I mean, let's talk about that airport. Again, with forecasting, they want employees for cleaning. We've got to pay to clean the windows. We got to pay tens of thousands of dollars for the plants. I mean, why didn't we forecast? Because that's all going to come on the backs of the taxpayers. It's great to have $60 million to have a brand new airport, but now we're going to be competing with Ithaca, who has international status. We're already competing with Binghamton. But one of the things I'm hearing around the county is small businesses. I know we sold the Warplane Museum, I believe, for around $2.3 million. There was supposed to be a committee to come up to help small businesses. What have we done there? We've got to have a greater focus and a greater emphasis on helping small businesses that make up 99% of 50% of the workforce.
Frank, just very quickly. The local share at the airport will drop from $1.1 million to under $600,000 in the 2019 budget. And you want to know why? Because of the new renovations and the airline stepping up and paying higher landing fees as our enplanements go up. Our airport has the largest number of enplanements in the southern tier. We are the gateway to the southern tier. There's no question about that.
We throw it to Jerome Emanuel.
Well, I mean, there's some things that are going on that, you know, that I've been, you know, happy to be a part of. I mean, we helped create the Elmira Entrepreneurs Group, you know, something that wasn't there before. You know, so we're out there in the community right now, you know, not as a job, but we're out there in the community right now helping people that have limited resources with limited education, and we're bringing them to the table, bringing those business people to the table and providing them with resources and training and how to build a business plan and getting those businesses out to the community. I mean, those are the things that we need to be doing countywide.
We now return to Big Fox reporter Rachel Madej.
So for this question, we'll start with Democratic candidate Jerome Emanuel. How would you address the opioid problem in Chemung County and reduce crime in general?
All roads lead to poverty. And I've been saying it over and over and over again. I mean, with the opioid epidemic, I mean, it's somewhat personal for me. I mean, you know, we have members of our family that have gone through it, so we have seen firsthand exactly what that can do. You know, so it's a very touchy subject, especially within our family. But I believe it is a treatment issue. You know, but largely it's a result of poverty. I mean, when you're talking crime and things like that, like what's going to happen when people have their backs against the wall, when they don't have money coming in, when they're trying to feed their families and they can't feed their families, when the job market is the way that it is. Desperate people do desperate things. You know, a lot of people resort to those opioids because they're trying to get out of the world that they live in and trying to see some alternative world. You know, we have to help people as much as we humanly possibly can. But on the ground level, like we have to get down and talk to we have to talk to the people that are living at or below that poverty line and figure out what we can do to help them get out of it. You know, so you know, like I said, all roads lead to poverty, and I think that, you know, both of those, you know, opioid epidemic and crime, in large cases, are byproducts of poverty.
Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I agree wholeheartedly with Jerome. In fact, to our relationship with the City of Elmira. The City of Elmira actually appointed Steg as the administrator for the Empire State Poverty Reduction Initiative program in the City of Elmira. The governor named 16 communities statewide. Elmira was one of them. We received a small grant. $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking about issues of poverty, where some of our census tracts, and the ones we're certainly concentrating on, 6, 7, and 10, they have 50% poverty, 70% for school-age children in a couple of our census tracts. So we've put together a plan. It's been approved by the state. It's certainly what we've created is 3 hubs, a hub in each of those census tracts with a navigator in each of those tracts to work in the neighborhoods, to concentrate their time in the neighborhoods, connecting people to resources and services to help move them and give them social mobility and move them along that social track. It's working well, but there's so much more to do. We also created a land bank. It's been my opinion, and when I first met with the Steg board about this job, and they asked me about Steg being involved in downtown Elmira, I said, well, of course Steg should be involved in downtown Elmira, but you can't have a vibrant downtown if you don't have vibrant neighborhoods that surround it. And it's that poverty, that entrenched poverty that is creating a lot of stress both in those neighborhoods as well as throughout the entire community. So we've focused our time and attention on that plan, creating employment opportunities. Jerome mentioned a few programs that he's involved in. He's been a champion for this cause for sure. But the other area that's so critical, we created a Chemung County land bank. And that land bank will work on rehabbing houses, and we've received a couple grants already, and we're in the market for about another couple $1 million that we've applied for. We should hear shortly on how we're doing with that as well. So, rehabbing those homes is critical. Place matters, and programs that surround place matter as well. But treatment and those types of issues that Jerome mentioned are certainly a paramount as well. And our Community Services Department is actively involved in those programs as well.
Republican candidate, Sheriff Chris Moss.
We initiated a program called Operation Hope, heroin opiate prevention effort, and that's been going for about 3 years now. It's been very successful. One of the things we do, that everybody that comes into the jail during the intake process, there's a questionnaire. We find out whether they've ever been addicted, if they're currently addicted to any type of opiate, because you'd be surprised. The majority of the opiate addiction is actually people who were originally prescribed pain medication, maybe for an operation, but they end up becoming addicted to it's not everybody out shooting heroin up the arm, which, some people may think. So it does come back to poverty. But I think what we need to do is continue to focus, not to go and arrest everybody for it, but to identify who they are. Once we identify them through the jail, we then hook them up with Trinity, where there's a program where after they get out of the jail, they can remain with the same counselor if they choose to do so. We've only had probably a 10 to 15% success rate once they get out of the jail, because obviously we know what activity they're doing in the jail, but once they leave, we can't. As far as the crime issue goes, in the city of Elmira, we need more police. The question is, how do we pay for them? Because I'm not a fan of just saying, okay, here's the money, go hire more cops. I think we need a plan. If I need another deputy or I have a plan, I send it to the county executive's office and say, here's the benchmarks, here's what we want to do, here's how long it's going to take. It has to be well thought out, and I think that's what we need to do. But at the end of the day, I think Elmira Police Department's at an all-time low, so until we come up with some type of plan to address that, I think we're going to continue to see shootings and the type of crime we're seeing. They're doing the best they can do with the resources they have, but it's not fair to ask the police chief to eradicate all these shootings in the city of Elmira and not give them the resources to do so. But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars, and we got to find a place for that money.
Mike, if I could, I'll tell you a little bit about one of our plans. As part of that neighborhood revitalization, we've reached out to the state of New York, and LECOM is going to become an anchor for that neighborhood. And the state has told us that they're going to provide fairly substantial dollars to help us rehab and rehabilitate and revitalize those neighborhoods that surround LECOM. And part of that exercise is to embed in that grant request public safety dollars, because that is so critical to turning those neighborhoods around, not just revitalization of homes, but ensuring that people feel safe and secure in those neighborhoods as well.
And that is very important, because we know where it's being built just blocks away. There are neighborhoods where we have a lot of the crime problems. So absolutely. I'm glad to hear that there'd be public safety money involved, and I hope we spend it wisely.
Yes.
Great. Our next question goes to Independence candidate Mike Cruzen. Do you feel there should be term limits for the executive position and for the legislature?
Well, what I have proposed, I would not serve more than 2 terms. So rather than kind of carry the mantle of term limits when I know that I will not do more than 2 terms, I've recommended that we set up a citizens commission on county government reform. a 9 to 11 person body, recommended by both the county executive, the mayor, as well as the chair of the Rural Association of Mayors and Supervisors. So we can put a group of people together, recommend them to the county legislature, have them embodied, again, use a facilitator role for them to start holding public forums, not just talk about term limits, talk about staggered terms, campaign finance reform. Let's talk about nonpartisan elections. Let's talk about the structure of county government. Should we have a county executive or should we have a county administrator? I think that's something that we need to drive out into the community and let them have a dialogue and a conversation. I don't think it should be politicians that make those decisions. It should be our community. And I'm committed to doing that within the first couple of weeks of, if I'm elected, within the first couple of weeks, we'll start to put that list together. We'll work with the mayor. We'll work with the chair of the Rams, and we'll put together a group of people and let them explore with this community whether or not we should look at county government differently than we do right now. There's pros and cons to term limits. There's pros and cons to everything I just mentioned. And I think having a more deliberative process, allowing people to weigh in, is a more appropriate way than just simply making a campaign promise to do something.
Thank you. Sheriff Chris Moss.
Term limits has been a hot button topic. A lot of people are for it where I go. So I think it should be a politician that introduces it, because otherwise I don't believe it'll ever be done. My plan is 2 term limits for the Office of County Executive and no more than 3 4-year terms for the county legislature. Obviously, like Mike said, we need to stagger the county legislature, because the last thing we need is 15 new people coming in on every given year. But the fact of the matter is, if you're the county executive or a county legislature, if you can't get your platform issues and your ideas done and enacted in that period of time, move aside and let somebody else in there to do the job. And I think it becomes complacent, especially for a lot of the legislatures. I've been knocking on doors with people tell me, boy, my legislator was here. I'd never met him before. And I think that's what's great about this year in the election. So many people are running. We've made the incumbent legislators get out there and work, introduce themselves to their constituents, and tell them what they're about. But it's unfortunate that it only happens every 4 years. So I am for term limits. Steuben County has them. We would pattern it something similar to that. Obviously, it would go up to a vote to the voters of the county, so I don't see an issue with, as long as they're making the decision. I'm definitely for term limits, and something will get done ASAP.
Great. Jerome Emanuel.
I like the idea of having term limits for the county executive as well as for the county legislators. But again, and I say it over and over again, I'm a collaborator, not a dictator. I would like to hear, what the newly elected county legislator has to say about it. I believe that they were all before, term limits on the county executive's office and the county legislator's office. I think that, it does put a little bit of pressure on us to succeed. And it does put a little pressure on the legislator to succeed and get their agendas, out and accomplish their goals. I come from a world where, you don't have an opportunity you don't have 4 years to decide if you're doing a good job or not. I come from a world where, hey, it's month to month. You could walk in tomorrow and get fired. So, you're always, you always have to stay on point. You always have to make sure you're doing the absolute best that you possibly can do. So I think that term limits does offer some of that. And again, I would like to hear what the county legislators have to say about it.
Great. And that concludes, we're just about out of time. So real quick, Mike.
Yeah, just real quickly. I think as part of my suggestion, I would expect that by the end of 2020, which is 2 years into this term, that group would have those recommendations back to the legislature, and they would have to vote a yay or nay on these, each and every one of the proposals.
Thank you. So we're just about out of time. It's hard to believe it's been an hour already. Let's go through our closing statements. We start with Sheriff Chris Moss.
Well, I'd say to the voters, for the first time in almost 3 decades, you're going to have the opportunity to elect a new county executive, regardless of who you pick. I think each of the candidates offers a diverse, different type of talent to bring to the position, but you have to go out and exercise your right to vote. The legislature, the same thing. We have a huge number of candidates, and I think it's great for the entire process. Get out and exercise your right to vote. Is Chris Moss as your county executive? You're going to get similar as Chris Moss as your sheriff. I'm honest. I have an open office. We have integrity. I have an open door policy where you can come and ask me a question at any time. So I think at the end of the day, I'd ask the voters to go out, support my candidacy. Thank you very much. November 6th.
Thank you. Next we go to Democrat candidate Jerome Emanuel.
Well, I'd just like to thank you all for the opportunity. Thank Chris and Mike as well. This has been, a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. I can say I bring a different set of eyes, to the table. I come from a different background. I think that the skills that I've learned, along my journey, will play a critical role, in county government moving forward. I am a collaborator. I want to work with people. I want to listen to people. I want to have regularly scheduled town halls where we get out in the community, we talk to people, we listen to what their concerns are, let them tell us what's going on, and then react to what the public wants and needs. So my vision, local jobs, local labor, support local labor, support local. Thank you all for your support, and if you believe in my message, then vote for me on November 6th.
Thank you very much. Independence candidate Mike Cruzen.
Yeah, thank you, Frank and Rachel. Chris, Jerome, thank you very much as well. I have been here for our residents for the last 3 decades, working with our business community, growing our economy, and creating jobs, working with our county workforce and local municipal partners, delivering high-quality services, working with New York State to bring important resources to our community to build a better quality of life for Chemung County residents. On November 6th, I am respectfully asking you to be there for me so we can continue our work together to make Chemung County a place we can be proud to call home. If you give me your vote, I will not let you down.
Thank you. That concludes the 2018 Chemung County Executive Debate. Thank you to everyone for joining us, for listening. For Rachel Madej and myself, thank you for listening and watching. And remember to vote November 6th.